Okay, I am also rolling on my end.
Thank you, sir.
Mike Hull, what about you? Are you recording locally?
Yeah, I figured I might as well.
All right.
I don't know if we're gonna use any of my stuff or not, but I'll record.
I think we'll use some of you. I think there's a chance of that. One Heat Minute Productions presents Guide for the Film Fanatic, the podcast where we invite a guest to pick one movie from Danny Perry's seminal 1986 film reference guide and talk to us about that movie. I'm your host, Jason Bailey, and across the mic and across the country from me is my co-host,
Michael Hull.
Our guest today is a phenomenal film critic, podcaster, and author. You may have read his work in The Wrap, MSNBC, The Advocate, The Village Voice, or The Film Verdict. You may have heard his podcasts, Linoleum Knife, Maximum Film, Breakfast All Day, and Deck the Hallmark. Or you may have read his books, which include Hollywood Pride, a celebration of LGBTQ plus representation and perseverance in film, 101 must-see movies for gay men, I'll Be Home for Christmas movies, and Have Yourself a Movie Little Christmas, which has just been reissued in a fully revised and updated edition for your holiday movie watching needs. Please welcome our good pal, Mr. Alonso Duralde. Hey, Alonso.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us, for coming back on. Always happy to welcome back a very good year guest. We always promise the authors we plug early and often. So Have Yourself a Movie Little Christmas was, correct me if I'm wrong, first published in 2010.
That is correct.
All right, so let's start with what's new in this edition. What makes it revised and updated? What have you added to your masterpiece?
Well, I mean, first I had 15 years worth of new Christmas movies to get into. So,
Right.
everything from Arthur Christmas to Violent Night, a bumper crop of really great Netflix stuff like Klaus and Let It Snow. So just that alone was a reason enough to kind of dig back in there. But then also there were some classics that I just missed out on the first time. So now I get to talk about Blast of Silence and Cash on Demand and
Yes.
Auntie Mame and The Holly and the
Nice.
Ivy. So there's a lot in here that will be new to people who know the first book. But everything that was in the first book, is still in this one, even though sometimes I had to truncate it down to about 2 sentences to fit in all the new stuff. Because, they told me I couldn't do a sequel because you had to have all the classics in there. And also this edition had to be about the same size as the first one. So had to make some tough choices, had to
Sure.
kill some babies. But, I think there's just so much new stuff in there. There's more than 100 titles that weren't mentioned the first time around. So I feel like, you're getting a whole new book. If you're starting here, that's great too. If you want to own both of them, I'm not going to stop you. But but yeah, there was just a lot of ground to cover since 2010 for sure.
That makes sense. You have written 2 books now about Christmas movies. You have
Yes.
Podcasts devoted to just them. Walk us through where that came from, your love of holiday cinema, where it began, how it became such a constant in your career, to the extent that, like, you're who I think of when I think of Christmas movies.
Good.
Where
It's working.
a brand is important. Where did that start? What is the root of that?
I mean, honestly, they were parallel tracks for most of my life. I've always loved Christmas and I've always loved movies. And, Christmas movies have been something that I have found pleasurable and enjoyable. And certainly as I entered into the world of, the media, which is not the media that exists now. But, when I first graduated from college and there were still things like newspapers and magazines, I would very often be asked by editors to compile lists of, Christmas movies that people don't think of as Christmas movies or horror Christmas movies or whatever. And so I started kind of creating these lists in my head and sort of carrying them around. And, I pitched the idea to the gentleman who would become my book agent. And, we managed to get it published. And a thing that I realized in doing the first edition of the book was that I could watch these movies at any time of year and I would not be swallowed by the earth. The calendar police were not going to come to my house. And so that kind of opened the floodgates, because the thing about this book, I think if you look at it and go, well, there's hundreds of movies in here. How could I possibly watch them all between Thanksgiving and Christmas? Well, spoiler, you can't. So, if you really like this stuff, watch one in July. Who cares? Live a little.
Yeah.
So, I think the writing the first book kind of gave me the permission to just sort of delve into this on a more regular basis. And also it made me realize that if you want to be the expert in something, pick a field that no one else has wanted to step up to be the expert in. And, they just sort of hand it to you.
There you go.
That is such a guide for the film fanatic answer too, because I'm sure you could do an hour on Miracle on 34th Street, but you also will talk about slashers, Christmas slashers, talk about, whatever, this sort of
Christmas heist movies. And,
sure. Yeah. Eyes wide shut.
There you go.
Yeah, why deprive yourself? And I get it. If you're one of those people that's mad when you see, a wreath at Williams-Sonoma in October, like, oh, fine, okay, we all have our own internal clock for this sort of thing. But as far as I'm concerned, it's always a good time to fire up, Remember the Night or something.
It feels so okay. So as you mentioned, there have been a lot of new holiday movies since 2010. Really sort of a volume that I would imagine is difficult to even pick highlights or encapsulate in terms of this whole new subgenre that's sort of popped up in the past few years of the Hallmarky sort of, made for streaming, made for TV, cozy Christmas romance sort of movies. So it's not that there's been a shortage of product. It does feel to me, and I'm not the expert, like we have not had a really great, culturally impactful, revisited every year Christmas movie in quite a long time. The most recent one that kind of leaps to my mind is Elf. Though again, you're the expert, I could be wrong.
No. Elf and Love Actually came out the same year, actually, but strangely enough. And recently, when they both celebrated their, I think, 20th anniversaries, there was a lot of talk about we haven't had, a sort of, as you say, a kind of sizable, universally beloved, Christmas movie since then. But I think that the way that people watch stuff has changed so much.
Right.
Because, I don't even do Hallmark in this book. I did a whole other book about that. I mean, that's its own subject, which I did with the guys at the Deck the Hallmark podcast. I really kind of limited this to theatrical and, in a few cases, streaming films. But I think that because we don't have to watch the same 3 channels or 8 channels or 15 channels, that you're not going to get a thing where Ted Turner deciding to show something for 24 hours is going to suddenly rocket it to the canon, which is what he did with A Christmas Story. A movie that did fine in theaters, it did fine on VHS, but it was really that thing of how do we recreate that moment in the 1970s when everybody fell in love with It's a Wonderful Life because it was always on television. Ted Turner, artificially does that on TNT and TBS by doing these marathons of A Christmas Story, and that worked. And it did put that movie into people's consciousness years after it had actually opened. But now I think everybody has things at their fingertips that they get to pick what they want and stuff. So it's going to be harder for something to break through like that. And obviously in the case of Elf and Love Actually, those are both movies that found audiences in theaters and were big hits in theaters and then moved on to have a life after that. Whereas I think very often the trajectory for Christmas movies is maybe people will see them when they first come out, but it's the I picked up the DVD or I caught it on Hulu or whatever that sort of, builds it up that way. And so then it becomes a thing of well, who's sending people to Hulu to watch this stuff or to go buy the Blu-ray or whatever. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do here, to let people know that, did you know that David Gordon Green and Ben Stiller collaborated on a really funny Christmas movie last year called Nutcrackers? Probably not. It premiered at Toronto, went straight to Hulu and got some coverage and some response. But, there's just a ton of other stuff that it had to compete with to be noticed. So it's just gonna, it's the fight for eyeballs is trickier than ever.
At risk of putting you on the spot, if you had to pick one movie from the post-Elf Love Actually era to sort of elevate into the canon with the great Christmas movies that you don't feel like is recognized as one, what would it be?
This is not everybody's cup of tea, but I really love Arthur Christmas.
I do too.
The Aardman animation film. And again, I think that one has started to make some inroads into being a regular revisit in this country, because it opened in like a 2-week period of where it was up against the Muppets and Hugo and Tintin and all of this stuff. And it was like, oh man, this movie, no one is going to see it. And no one did. But then Freeform picked it up and made it part of their 25 Days of Christmas for several years. And I think that is where some young viewers started glomming onto it and then like growing older with it. But yeah, that's a movie that I love. And I can't believe that more people don't sing its praises.
I'll tell you two people who do sing its praises on an annual basis, and that's Lucille Dryden-Bailey and Alice Dryden-Bailey.
Nice.
My two daughters. They love Arthur Christmas.
Great.
It is one of their very few perennials that they ask every year. They're ready to crack that one out and give it another.
Oh,
watch.
excellent.
So you have very good taste, and I'll have to tell them they share a favorite with the literal guy who wrote the book on Christmas movies. They'll be so thrilled. Okay, so what film, Alonso, did you select to discuss with us today?
On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
What a hilarious choice. I mean, they start with the good shit. They open with the business.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is how you jump in. Like, oh, okay, we're gonna start on the skis. We're gonna start with gunplay. Here we go.
Well, they're not selling his face, so you know.
No. Well said. They're selling her face though. Holy God. I'm not breaking news here, but Diana Rigg. Holy shit. What a beautiful woman. Oh my Lord. Okay, so yeah. So
I can never remember like what happens in what Bond movie. You just remember the stunts. You remember sort of particular characters, but I can never attach them to particular movies. And you know, opening with the skiing is the shit, because no idea what movie that's in, but I know it's a Bond movie, and I know I love it. You know, it's such a great way to start.
I think this was the only sort of snowy Bond or icy Bond until Die Another Day. Would that?
Oh, you might be right. Actually, yeah, they're usually tropical because it's
right.
Got to get the ladies in the bikinis.
Yes, of course. But I do. Well, there's an alternate to that.
This was also the first 007 movie to be shot entirely in Europe.
Ooh, interesting. Okay. What were they? They were just usually there was some reason to come to America or
the Caribbean or
Right. Oh yeah, I do love the Bob.
You only live twice. Have been in Japan, I guess.
There you go.
Oh.
It's also hard to remember that they were on movie number 7 and Bond number 2 by 1969.
Right.
For some reason that just feels early. I don't know why, but that just feels early to me. But then you're watching the movie and you're like, this is the most 1969, you know what I mean? Holy shit, dude.
We will get to that. I have thoughts on that.
If he went to Woodstock, this movie couldn't be more 1969.
Directed by Peter. Oh, yeah, there we go. Oh, and here he is. There's our guy, Mr. George. All right,
play the theme. They know the theme.
Yes.
If you asked me, if you told me, oh yeah, George Lazenby, he was on the Supreme Court when Truman was president, I would be like, oh yeah, obviously. I mean, I feel like, who is he again?
He's the ultimate Trivial Pursuit answer, I think.
There you go.
Yep.
So, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, as we mentioned, was this was actually the sixth official canon James Bond movie. No, it gets convoluted, so don't worry about it. In some ways, it was the seventh. It's the seventh if you count
Casino Royale,
the original. Not really Casino Royale. Yes,
right.
Exactly. All right. So the sixth official canon James Bond movie, the first after the initial departure of Sean Connery from his signature role. Eon Productions reportedly considered 400 actors to take over the role, ultimately settling on George Lazenby, an Australian model and commercial actor who had never appeared in a feature film.
They had other choices.
They
It
did.
wasn't like this was somebody's cousin and they were just like stuck with him. They went through 400 people and this was the guy they picked.
That's where they landed. Correct. Eon attempted to sign him for 7 films, but he would only agree to appear in 1. The director was Peter Hunt, who had edited all of the previous films in the series and served as second unit director on Goldfinger, Thunderball, and You Only Live Twice. All right, Mike, what does Danny Perry say about On Her Majesty's Secret Service in Guide for the Film Fanatic?
Is this like the difference between like an auteur and a committee? Like, did the auteur cast Connery and Lazenby was by committee? Is this how everything gets fucking ruined? I want to just know about his story. I'm gonna have to write a book.
There's actually there is a really wonderful documentary from a couple of years ago that he like participated in and told his story, and they did reenactments, and it's on Hulu, and it's very good. So
Okay.
It's a good thing that wasn't my double it up pick, although it almost was. All right, go ahead.
Danny says the 7th James Bond film, discounting Casino Royale, might well be regarded as the best of the series if Sean Connery, rather than the uncharismatic George Lazenby, had played 007. It is a throwback to the early Bonds before self-parody had crept in and the gimmickry had become too important. Lazenby's Bond has human traits. He's neurotic. He resigns from work when M doesn't seem to appreciate him. He falls in love and marries Spanish Contessa Tracy, played by Diana Rigg, the classiest of the Bond girls.
Amen.
He's vulnerable. We actually worry when a little fella almost catches him opening his safe. A little fella. He's no longer super confident after having spent 2 years unsuccessfully tracking Blofeld. Story has Bond rescue Tracy from suicide, win her love. Her criminal father, Gabriel Ferzetti, helps him trace Blofeld, Telly Savalas, to Swiss chalet on mountaintop. Pretending to be a stuffy genealogist, Bond gains entry. He discovers Blofeld plans to unleash deadly germs. Bond stops the plot, but the price is very high. Picture is too long and really bogs down when Rigg isn't around, but it holds up nicely, especially now that no one resents Lazenby anymore.
Except Michael, apparently.
Clearly.
I would just say I'm more confused by him. I don't think
There
I'm
you
quite
go.
to the level of resentment. I'm going to
That's
watch
fair.
that movie, though. I might hate him after. Avoid the terrible version in which Bond narrates and scenes are juggled around. Also with Ilsa Stepat, Bernard Lee, Lois Maxwell, Desmond Llewellyn, Julie Eeg, and Bessie Love.
All right, so Alonso, I'm going to start with the obvious question. Of all...
What is the terrible version? No, that's not the obvious question.
That's
Sorry.
not the obvious question. Of all of the many holiday-related movies in Guide for the Film Fanatic, why did you select this one?
Well, I think that a lot of the ones that Puri chooses are movies that are unquestionably Christmas movies, that no one's going to give you a fight about them. You know, It's a Wonderful Life and Miracle on 34th Street. This kind of falls in the category of, but is it? And I would, of course, respond, hell yeah, it is. For a lot of different reasons. Like there's literally a song in this movie that Nina von Pallant, under the name Nina, sings called, Do You Know Where Christmas Trees Are Made? There are the whole gimmick that Blofeld is going to like unleash germ warfare upon the planet is hidden inside these beautifully wrapped Christmas presents. The whole time they're in the villa, there's like Christmas trees, and like the season plays into the whole thing here. And so, yeah, I thought it would be kind of a fun one to talk about because it is the kind of movie that I'm trying to champion in the book, which is ones that people might not immediately think of as being Christmas movies, but absolutely are. And also, I initially sought this movie out because of what Puri wrote about it here and in Cult 3, I want to say. I forget which of the 3. But I think that, and he doesn't go into as much in Film Fanatic, but in Cult he talks about how the people who think that this movie would have been 3 would have been the greatest if Connery had played the role. He then points out, but Connery wouldn't have done it this way. Connery would have never played the foppish genealogist with the ruffly blouse and the kilt. Right. Connery would never have had that tender relationship that 007 has with Tracy because, his Bond is a sadist. So I think that this
we barely got started and you already won. You already won. That's it. You got it.
I don't know. I love this as a Christmas movie and I love this as a Bond movie.
So to that end then, Typically at this point early in the conversation, I'll ask, the guest what their personal history is with the movie. And I want to know that. I'm also curious to know sort of your history with Bond itself and your feelings about the series and sort of the place it holds for you, if any.
Well, I mean, I grew up in the 70s, and so, of course, the Bond was just sort of considered like the ne plus ultra of cool. My parents were, mindful about what we could and couldn't go see. Like, they would read the Parents Magazine guidebook about, like about new releases and what was okay and what was not. So I grew up watching the ABC Sunday night movie edits of a lot of these movies. This is one of those childhood grudges I carry to this day. My first Bond, in the theater was going to be The Spy Who Loved Me. Okay. And then my oldest brother saw it and told my parents it was too risque for me at the age of, I guess, 11 or something.
Snitch.
Wow.
So I know. Oh,
Snitches get stitches.
I had much older siblings and they loved to co-parent. So my first Bond in a theater was Moonraker.
Oh, dear. Oh, no. Oh, no.
But nonetheless, I grew up loving the Bond movies. And, I had this European import album that was like all of the songs from the films, like going all the way up through like For Your Eyes Only.
Oh,
so
wow.
like I know all of those jams.
Yeah. See, okay, that's fascinating. My Bond feelings are much more, I wouldn't say indifferent, but just... I try not to mention this often, but I am a few years younger than Alonso. Not a lot, but a few. And I came of age sort of in the mid 80s, which was not really the salad days of the Bond franchise.
The Octopussy period.
The A View to a Kill and, late Roger Moore and the unfortunate Timothy Dalton ones. And so I've never
say never again.
I've never had a huge emotional, sentimental attachment to this series. I would say of the entirety, there were probably a third of them I've never seen. Probably about a third that I've seen and liked to loved, like I've loved some of them, and a third that I've seen and didn't like at all. So I am really sort of, I don't have a big attachment to this series. This was one of the ones that I had not seen. And I will confess, Alonso did give me a choice, which is always kind of the guest, between this or the more conventional choice of It's a Wonderful Life. And the thing is, I didn't want to have another hour-long argument with Mike about It's a Wonderful Life. So I chose...
I didn't argue last time.
So
I'll let Emily St. James take care of this when her book comes out.
There you go. But also, like, I had wanted to see this movie for a while after I found out what a huge fan Steven Soderbergh is.
Yes.
Like when he does his annual list of like everything he watched and read and listened to that year, On Her Majesty's Secret Service is always on it at least once, usually more than that. And like the year that he was like going to make The Man from U.N.C.L.E., it was on that list like 12 times. Like he is a huge booster of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Didn't he do like
a re-edit or something at some point?
Oh, probably. I'll bet he did.
During COVID lockdown, just to entertain himself, he like trimmed it or something.
Probably so. So we will get back to what is interesting and fascinating. And I liked this movie quite a bit in some really specific and unexpected ways. And I want to talk to you about those. But before I do, Mike, I realize I'm not 100% sure what your Bond backstory is, if any.
I mean, I feel like they were on TV when we were kids. I mean, like like 80s era, the ones that were coming out were not great, but the ones that had been out were licensable.
Right.
So I feel like I saw, that's what I mean about I can remember a lot of the things without remembering what specific movie it's in, or apparently sometimes even who the Bond is. But then you think about sort of like if all you've ever seen is Forrest Gump and Titanic, you're sort of like a kindergarten movie guy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And you sort of senior in high school, you're sort of onto your your stalkers or whatever, right? Like, I mean, I feel like at some point around like second or third grade, everybody's a Bond guy for a little while, for a couple years, while you're on the way to learning about the movies that were inspiring them.
Right.
You know, and sort of learning about a little bit of the language that was going around then, because it seems like they always had budgets to do things that were more interesting than a lot of other movies. I mean, certainly anything British, definitely, right? Like, they were obviously inspired by movies, sort of action movies and things that were happening outside of their immediate sort of milieu. And sometimes they were able to do things that nobody else was able to do. So, like, my relationship with them now is I don't ever watch them, and then when I do, for whatever reason, I'm always like, damn, that was pretty good. You know? And it happened with this one. You know, I mean, I hadn't seen it in a long time, and I can't remember which one it is. And then the skiing, and, you know, I watched the trailer because I'm downloading it, and then I put them, oh my God, Diana Rigg, holy shit. And I do that with it every time. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is better than I remember. They're always better than I remember.
Yeah. So, and we know where you land on Mr. Lazenby. Alonso, how do you feel about this actor and his take on Bond? It's not, you made some earlier points about certainly his approach. Do you think he's a good Bond, and would you have liked to have seen him do more of them?
I don't know that I have the same answer for both of those, because I think he's really good in this movie, in this specific plot that's being demanded of him, and is almost kind of like, you know, really he's like George Lazenby is one of the early postmodernists. I think he's doing so much acknowledgement of, like, okay, I'm playing the character, but it's not. Yes, it's still me, but I'm not him with the thing. You know,
this never happened to the other fellow.
Exactly. There's a lot of those winking acknowledgments. This never happened to the other fella. I'm going to root through the desk drawer and find souvenirs from old missions, and you're going to hear a little musical sting for each one. Like, yeah, I think he's handling all of that really well. I think he does. I think he and Rigg have real chemistry.
Definitely.
You know,
they are hot together.
They are. She's doing the heavy lifting, but nonetheless, he is at least meeting her at least a third of the way, you know. But I don't know if there was somewhere else for him to go from here after this, because, like, after this, you know, they're clearly, we're going to go back to Bond as usual. And, like, you know, the women who die and he shrugs it off and, you know, takes off in his Aston Martin, you know. And I don't know if he could play that Bond. I kind of feel like the thing sort of worked out where we needed to bring this guy in to play this version of this character in this one movie, and then go back to business as usual.
So what I found fascinating about it as a first-time viewer was, and I'm going to try to articulate this in a way that makes sense, but apologies in advance if I can't. All of the, you know, the Connery Bonds all feel very much like they are they are trend setting. Like, these feel like movies that are carving out a specific style, a feel, an aesthetic. They're making a kind of movie, like they're inventing a type of movie.
Sure.
This one, and I don't mean it to sound derogatory in any way, feels reactive to the cinema around it, as opposed to creating the cinema that is around it.
But is it reacting to the previous Bonds or to other stuff? That's the question.
The movies as a whole were reacting to the first 6 Bonds also. I mean, you think, like, number 6/7 is coming out in 1969. I mean, like, you think about, like, what were action movies, you know, in 1959.
Sure.
And I mean, it's just a completely different sort of universe. And I think the movies have sort of moved toward Bond in a way that will then start to sort of bury Bond, you know, in the sort of action that was happening at the time. Like,
I mean, there's a whole specific subgenre of just, like, these Bond knockoffs of that period, you know.
Flint and you know, Matt Helm.
Exactly, Man from U.N.C.L.E. on TV. Even, like, if you've ever seen on Mystery Science Theater, the brilliantly bananas OK Connery, where they cast Sean Connery's brother Neil Connery as the brother of a missing secret agent, and like work in Desmond Llewellyn and Lois Maxwell and all these former Bond girls and Bond villains. It's so yeah, like there was a lot of people that are sort of chasing that specific thing, but I get what you're saying, that this movie is more it's not just a response to the existence of 007, but to like 1969 cinema in general.
Bullet was 1968. I mean, like, these guys saw Bullet.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great example. Yes, that there are things in the filmmaking that feel edgier, harder, more like what I think of as a 1969 movie and less of what I think of as a Bond movie. But Alonso, that's a really wonderful chicken or the egg question. Like, how much is what I think of as a non-Bond 1969 movie informed by the Bond movies? But like these there's like snap zooms in that early beach scene, the hard cuts and the hard zooms in like that 3-on-1 fight scene when they're taking him to Draco. And then the real giveaway is that it has what, Roger Ebert memorably dubbed the semi-obligatory lyrical interlude when they're falling, this is from the movie glossary, the Ebert movie glossary, scene in which soft focus and slow motion are used while a would-be hit song is performed on the soundtrack and the lovers run through a pastoral setting, common from the mid-60s to the mid-70s, replaced in 80s with the semi-obligatory music video. That sequence, like, that's something out of Thomas Crown Affair. You know what I mean? Like, this stuff felt to me like I was watching a late 60s movies.
Elvira Madigan came out in 1967, so
okay,
that's the classic like running through daisies movie.
Yes, exactly. So again, I don't say any of that in a derogatory way. I think it makes it a more interesting movie to watch and think about and sort of sift through than, something like Diamonds Are Forever, or you know what I mean? Like, I think that is one of the things that makes it sort of specific and unique. And then sort of along those same lines, like, we got to talk about this ending, which is, I haven't seen all of the Bond movies, but this is the most bummer ending of that entire series, right? Okay. Like, I was very aware when I was watching it that this came out like 6 months after Easy Rider, because that ending feels like the ending of Easy Rider to me in a strange way.
I was just watching Mr. Scorsese on Apple TV, the Rebecca Miller docuseries, and when he's doing New York, George Lucas tells him, "You will make another $10 million if they get together." At the end. So I'm sure there was a similar conversation like, wait, what happens to her?
Yes.
What? But I think, again, the requirement of the franchise is that whatever the next movie is, it's not going to be Mr. and Mrs. Bond have adventures. It's going to be James Bond and his big swinging dick. And so, of course, we have to get rid of her somehow, But yeah, it definitely, it hits you in the gut. I've seen this movie, I don't know how many times, and it hits me in the gut every time.
That's really fascinating. And so to that end, I feel like, when the official Casino Royale came out in 2006, and there was a lot of talk of this sort of more serious Bond, and the heavier emotional weight that was given to the character. I feel like that what happens to him and his love interest in that movie is maybe the closest the series ever got to this sort of a downer and this kind of pathos as
George
character
Lazenby
motivation.
walked so that
Daniel Craig
could run.
Could
parkour.
There you have it. All right. So at what point then in your history with both Bond movies and Christmas movies did you realize that this one counted? And how delighted were you by that realization?
Oh God, I don't remember if there being an aha moment, but I know that when I was doing research and sort of like combing the internet and looking at like every movie slugged Christmas on IMDb, I was like, wait, wait a minute. Yeah. And I hadn't seen it in a while, and I watched it again. I was like, oh shit. Yeah, this is a Christmas movie, baby. Let's do it.
Yeah.
When they bring the gifts out, I'm like, oh yes. Okay. we're in it up to our elbows.
Yeah. Well, at risk of crossing streams with the book I'm currently working on, why do you think it is that I feel like of all of the genres, that fall under the rubric of genre movie, it feels like the action movie, those filmmakers do love to do the Christmas setting, to do the sort of counterintuitive Christmas music, like that whole thing, that incongruity. Why do you think they love that so much?
Well, I think that, culturally speaking, Christmas is one of the last things that has a sense of purity to it, like there, yes, you can have like somebody dressed as a sexy Santa or whatever, but for the most part, we think of it as being a wholesome activity. It's something that families do together, something that, is all about warmth and peace and understanding and, love. And so to do a horror movie, to do an action movie with that stuff in it, you're right. It is incongruous. It does, I refer to the, it's the pure white snowdrift with one spray of blood on it that shows up all the more vividly because of the contrast,
right?
And I think that on a just a more material level, if you're gonna have an action movie, it's quite likely a lot of it's gonna be taking place at night, and you want something that's gonna like jazz up, the thing, and like just you're not shooting an inky void,
right?
Twinkle lights go a long way to
They do.
to making your visuals pop while you're still having people have a car chase or whatever.
Right.
Well, part of that whole TNT thing you were saying earlier too is it's one of the sort of last things that's really ubiquitous, and that even people who don't celebrate it or get mad about it or pretend to be mad about it or whatever still know what it is.
Sure.
Yeah.
Still know what's expected of it. So on and so forth. Right.
And I don't think it doesn't have the baggage of certain other holidays. Like you get into July 4th and then it's like, okay, are we making some commentary about nationalism or something?
Right.
But like Christmas has become such a, secular celebration. I mean, we're way behind England in that regard, but we're getting there, that you can do all of the trappings and all of the lights and all the Santas and all the everything else. And it doesn't have to be like, oh yeah, we're talking about Jesus now,
Right.
For a lot of people, those two things are fairly divorced,
That totally makes sense. Okay, well, let's take a quick break.
Wait, I kind of just have to say one more thing.
Okay, yes, please.
I am already scared the fuck of trams over snowy mountains. Just as a thing, I don't trust them. I never have. And
what a specific phobia, Mike. I
don't trust them. I don't like it. I don't believe in them. And I know that they got backups to the backups. I probably know more about it than anybody who doesn't work in the tram industry, but I still don't trust it. And somehow they found new ways. It had never occurred to me that you might get stuck in the gears and have to crawl on a fucking wire. I mean, this is one of the things. This is one of the things that Bond movies are good for. Yeah, dude. Oh my God, it's bad enough. Trams are bad enough without all of that. Thank you very much, Her Majesty Service, George. I'm glad you made it out, George. You scared the shit out of me.
All right, friends, let's talk about the release and reception of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which opened in New York City on December 18th, 1969, alongside Tell Them Willie Boy Is Here, Alice's Restaurant, and Hitchcock's spy picture Topaz. That was something I didn't know before. That may have been part of why that movie was a commercial failure, opening it opposite a literal Bond movie. Also playing in New York that weekend, and this is a good weekend at the movies, Midnight Cowboy, Hello Dolly, They Shoot Horses, Don't They, Take the Money and Run, Don't Drink the Water, Paint Your Wagon, Downhill Racer, John and Mary, The Damned, Cactus Flower, Putney Swope, The Lion in Winter, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, the aforementioned Easy Rider, and re-releases of The Ten Commandments and Chaplin's The Circus. Go out to the damn movie theater, New Yorker.
What a time to be alive.
In December of 1969. I hope you had a good time. Mike, what were the news headlines on that?
It's the Christmas season, Jason, so I'm trying to keep it festive.
Yay!
I'm trying to keep it light. 1969 was a busy year and a hard... Okay. Andre Previn and Alan J. Lerner's musical Coco, inspired by the life of Coco Chanel, starring Katharine Hepburn, opened on Broadway. Ran for 329 performances and won 2 Tony Awards. That happened on December 18th, 1969. Isn't that nice?
Do I have the cast
lovely.
album? I do.
How are Miss Hepburn's vocal stylings?
About what you would expect.
There you
I
go.
thought, I was like, did she really? Wow. Like,
Yeah,
I was,
yeah.
that was later than I knew she was
Yeah,
doing.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
real work. I have to say also, by the way, no shade to people who make movies, but that Broadway shit, that's real work.
8 shows
Yeah.
a week? Come on.
I mean,
Yeah.
right.
So as someone who has heard that album and knows that musical, Alonso, how much of the Nazi shit is in there?
Not nearly enough. I think
Fair
they
enough.
really skirted a little more interested in talking
softball
about
the Nazi stuff.
Yeah, they're more interested in talking about the little black dress. You know.
Sure.
In international news, capital punishment for murder was ended permanently in the United Kingdom by a voice vote of the House of Lords 2 days after the House of Commons voted to eliminate an expiration date on the Murder Act of 1965. So since December 18th, 1969, they haven't had capital punishment in the UK. And you know what? I shit on the Brits at every opportunity.
You do.
Every
You do.
chance.
You bleed red, white, and blue. I've seen you in your Revolutionary War uniform. Like, I know how anti.
You have a Nathan Hale tattoo.
He does. He does.
Every chance I get to shit on the Brits. But you know
Yeah.
what? They got their lives together with this capital punishment thing, and they did it a long time ago. Guys, a
did.
long time ago. Do you know what, you know how they label generations? Do you know what generation people are born in 1969 are?
That's too old for Gen X.
No, it's not, buddy.
It's not?
And I
Okay.
just only said that because I knew you would say that because it reflects
damn.
on you. That's
I
reason
fell
said that.
right into it. Oh,
Yeah, because you're like,
curse
no,
you,
that's
hole.
That's too old for Generation X. That's too far away from my birthday only a few years later. Yeah, no, it's not. All right, finally, at the record plant in New York City, right?
Yes.
The recording studio,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
A long and productive evening for Jimi Hendrix, Billy Cox, and Buddy Miles, who were rehearsing their Band of Gypsies material for their New Year's gig that would be recorded and become an all-time classic. And I don't know exactly what a long and productive evening of recording means or rehearsing means for Jimi Hendrix, Billy Cox, and Buddy Miles in December of 1969. It might have been doodling around while the girls came in. Yeah, who knows? But whatever it is, somehow it got reported in the newspaper that they had a productive night. And so you know what? I'm going to take them at their publicist's word.
There we go.
That's headlines.
You gotta.
If we're going to keep it fucking friendly, we got to let the publicist write the news, all right? That's how this works.
We do. Upbeat, positive.
Jason,
appreciate it.
What did the critics say about On Her Majesty's Secret Service?
The New York Times' A.H. Weiler wrote, quote, Mr. Lazenby, you know what? We've gone back and forth this whole damn. I honestly don't know if it's Lazenby or Lazenby. I don't know which way that A is supposed to go. I've been saying Lazenby, so I'll go with that. Mr. Lazenby, if not a spurious Bond, is merely a casual, pleasant, satisfactory replacement. I think that's pretty accurate. For the record, he plays a decidedly second fiddle to an overabundance of continuous action, a soundtrack as explosive as the London Blitz, and flip dialogue and characterizations set against some authentic, truly spectacular Portuguese and Swiss scenic backgrounds caught in eye-catching colors. End quote. The New York Morning
Dude, I'm not trying to be like language police or anything, but can you imagine now being like, that's as explosive as Gaza? Like the London Blitz.
true.
I mean,
That's
It's 25
true.
years earlier.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was
died
not
and
that far in
stuff.
the rear blue. Okay.
holy! I mean, we just wouldn't do that. Nobody would ever write that way.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
some
fair.
people would. The vast majority of people would never write that way now. Sorry.
I want to know what this guy thought when Roger Moore came on the scene. If he thinks this is a casual Bond.
The New York Morning Telegraph's Joe Rosen wrote, quote, all of Bond Connery's savoir-faire and sex appeal has been grafted onto Lazenby, but he is a much younger, more collegiate, and less worldly appearing agent than was the originator, and I'm afraid he strikes me as rather an obvious imposter. Rosen further yes, exactly. Rosen further insisted, enough is enough. Call it deja vu, call it too much of a good thing, call it whatever you like, but the whole James Bond thing seems over the hill. He called it. Series over in 1969. Dropped the mic. Very good, Joe Rosen. But the New Yorker's Pauline Kael proclaimed, the latest episode in the super serial of the 60s, the new James Bond thriller on Her Majesty's Secret Service, is set mainly in Switzerland, and it's marvelous fun. It introduces a new Bond, George Lazenby, who's quite a dull fellow, and the script isn't much either, but the movie is exciting anyway. The director, Peter Hunt, is a wizard at action sequences, here, particularly an ethereal ski chase that you know is a classic while you're goggling at it, and a mean, fast bobsled chase that is shot and edited like nothing I've ever seen before. I know that on one level it's not worth doing, but it sure has been done brilliantly. End quote. Pauline, baby. All right. And Variety opined, producers Albert R. Broccoli and that's so funny that that's his name. I know we're 50 plus years into this series, but it is funny that it is up until very recently was controlled by the Broccoli family.
Yeah, because usually you tell somebody a movie it's a broccoli movie, they think, oh,
it means it won't be fun. Yeah, exactly.
You'd think they made enough money off broccoli.
His invention really paid off, yeah.
There you go, yeah. The Jolly Green Giant as the next James Bond. And Variety opined, producers Albert R. Broccoli and Harry Salzman and director Peter Hunt have packed so much breakneck physical excitement and stunning visual attractions into On Her Majesty's Secret Service that the initial disappointment of George Lazenby replacing Sean Connery as James Bond is almost forgotten by the film's climax. How did it do in terms of box office and awards, Michael?
As usual, Mr. Bond did quite well at the box office, bringing in $82 million worldwide on a $7 million budget. Wow. But it was a considerable drop from the ticket sales for the previous entry, You Only Live Twice, which was part of why Eon took such pains to lure Connery back to the franchise for its next entry, 1971's Diamonds Are Forever. It only saw one award nomination of note. The Golden Globes nominated him for the Most Promising Newcomer Male Award, which he lost to Midnight Cowboy's John Voight. And, I mean, fair enough.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Now it's time for a segment.
I'm more likely to watch the Lazenby doc than the John Voight doc, but as far as 1969 awards shows go, fair enough.
Fair. Probably made the right call there. Now it's time for a segment we call Double It Up, where we each select one movie that we think would make an ideal double feature with today's focal film. Alonso, as our guest, you get to go first.
Well, I was thinking about various ways to go here, and then I think one of the things that was sort of prompted by the 007 series is not just the many films that were knockoffs, but I think the films that made it a point to be antithetical. There was like, you know what, the spy game is not glamorous, and you're not like, trading bon mot on the Riviera, and like it's grim and it's deadly and it's all of these things. And so you get movies like Spy Who Came in from the Cold and different sort of, tougher espionage movies. This one isn't quite, like at the, a Jean Le Carré big brutalist building in Berlin level. But I will say a movie that is a lot more clear-headed about the realities of espionage and is also a Christmas movie is 3 Days of the Condor.
Yes. Bravo. All right. Robert Redford, R.I.P.
Yep.
One of the, I don't want to say, a sad passing, but I think one of the sort of beautiful coping mechanisms for our collective grief at Mr. Redford's loss was the absolute deluge of social media posts of him specifically in 3 Days of the Condor, like with like all sorts of appreciation for his considerable drip in that movie. That was the phrase. That was the phrase I heard a lot. It was him in like those pea coats and cords and just rocking it on 3 Days of the Condor.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm sure people prefer All the President's Men, but do you want to wear any of those outfits? I don't think
no,
No.
you certainly don't. And you certainly don't want him to be seen under that top fluorescent lighting when
exactly,
when,
at the post
when
office.
some of the imagery of 3 Days of the Condor is
Halloween at
available.
best. That season is past.
There you go. All right. Excellent pick, Alonso. I went with, I decided to go down the Lazenby path, and I've selected The Man from Hong Kong, which was a 1975 basically an Ozploitation movie. But more of the action bent, directed by the great Brian Trenchard Smith, who directed some of the very best Australian exploitation movies. Stunt rock forever, baby. So he's fantastic. But this is basically this is Trenchard Smith's directorial debut. Lazenby plays the villain in it, which he did a fair amount of sort of in the post-Bond years. It seemed to sort of get a kick out of doing those villainous roles. The leading man in this one is Jimmy Wang Yu, who we all know as the one-armed swordsman from the Shaw Brothers. So what you've got here is this sort of delicious mixture of like Ozploitation, Shaw Brothers Kung Fu, Bond movie, all kind of on a low budget, but like Trenchard Smith knew how to use a low budget. It's just a lot of fun. It's not award worthy by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a fun movie. And you really do, like, George Lazenby seems to be having a great time playing a bad guy in this slightly disreputable Australian movie. And I just love that for him. Mike, what's yours?
I'm a little nervous because I'm afraid if I mention this movie, Alonso might hang up and never talk to us again. But
Wow.
Try me.
have you guys seen Christmas in Connecticut?
Which one?
I mean,
Good
only.
question.
Okay, well, I don't. The only one I know of is the movie that is the only credited movie, the only movie that Arnold Schwarzenegger is credited with directing, and this feels this is the most fucking, like, the captain of the football team had some fucking kid write a science paper for him. How the fuck am I supposed to believe Arnold Schwarzenegger was on set a single solitary day of this movie? And you can tell he showed up for one day, which is the scene in the beginning where Chris Christopherson is doing pull-ups badly. You know that Arnold Schwarzenegger was on set busting that old man's balls.
No, you got to keep your arms straight.
That is a really good Arnold. I'm sorry. Credit where due. There are a lot of bad ones. That's a pretty good one.
Thank you.
The only thing that makes me think maybe that he really was there is that it is the blandest movie that not only has been made, but even could be made. And it seems like the kind of thing that would happen when... Did Stallone ever direct a movie? Don't let me say that.
Yeah. Many. Directed a bunch of the Rocky movies.
Rocky.
Oh, right.
Did,
right. Okay.
Paradise Alley.
Well, then
Nighthawks, I
then
think. Yeah.
That doesn't say much for Arnie then. But what it does, and you know, Jason, I've enjoyed doing these sort of oppositional double features sometimes where it's like, you know, if we're going to talk about this as a thing, then, you know, this is something that's sort of more what you normally think of it. And it helps the sort of what's unique about the movie that the guest has brought stand out. And the idea that, like, go watch your ass Christmas in Connecticut and get sunk in the movies that Alonso won't write about anymore. Like, when he said, like, I already did a whole Hallmark book, there's heavy shades of, like, I've talked about that enough. You can read about it if you want. And, like, Christmas in Connecticut is the movie that made him feel that way.
What's really appalling is that it's a remake of a really good movie.
Right.
I wasn't even gonna fucking get into that because it's like that's just a whole other layer of upset that these people thought they needed to do this at all.
I just didn't want somebody looking this up, you know, on like justwatch.com and like going to, I don't know what, Schwarzenegger and Barbara Stanwyck were alive at the same time? What? You know, like,
wild. But like when you watch that movie, it's like, and then you because I watched both of them today just for the fun of like really making sure that
Sure.
you know that toothpaste and orange juice tasted the way I remembered them tasting in my mouth, you know. And when you go and watch this Bond movie, which is a Christmas movie, but it's not, you know, sort of treacly about it, which is an actual movie made by real people full of great stuff, for whatever I have to say about Lazenby and that fucking collar he's got on. It's clear that these people know how to make a movie in a way that I'm not sure Arnold ever had to.
No.
So yeah, Christmas in Connecticut. Holy shit! What a movie.
As object lesson, yes.
Yes,
There you go.
precisely.
There you go. God, you may not have been looking at the screen, but just a little heads up for the YouTube viewers. The way that Alonso's expression changes when he realizes you're talking about the remake, like that is one for the ages right there.
Also horrifying to me as a dyed-in-the-wool Diane Cannon fan. Frankly.
Yeah,
Like, he did not do her right either.
No.
Did Diane
Christofferson is a real. I mean, like I know he was mostly he was a better musician than anything else, but he was good in some movies.
Solid actor.
Sure.
Solid
You know what I
doesn't
mean?
live
He
here
didn't
anymore.
ruin a lot of movies.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like he wasn't even given the opportunity to not ruin this one.
He was either Pat Garrett or Billy the Kid, right?
There you go.
Right.
There you go. All right. Alonso, the new and expanded edition of Have Yourself a Movie Little Christmas is on shelves now. Where can
Yes.
people follow you on social media?
I am A. Duralde on Blue Sky, Alonso.Duralde on Instagram, but generally speaking, I'm the easiest person on earth to Google because apart from one distant relative who was born this year, there is not another Alonso Duralde on earth. So
Congratulations.
I'm really easy to track
Congratulations
down.
to AD Junior.
Yeah,
Or AD Little. Not Junior, Little.
I hope that kid has better luck with this moniker than I did. Let's see how it goes.
I am Jason Bailey on Blue Sky and Letterboxd. Mike, where are people finding you these days?
I've been writing a lot of fun reviews on Letterboxd as Michael Hull. Nice and easy.
There we go. There we go. Of course, if you like the show and you think other people might like it too, please do leave us a rating and or review on the old podcatcher of choice. If you'd like to join our mailing list, get our weekly show notes and links and all that fun stuff, you can do that at buttondown.email/filmfanatic. If you're looking for a last-minute Christmas gift, may I recommend both Have Yourself a Movie Little Christmas in the new and expanded and revised edition, or Gandolfini, Jim, Tony, and the Life of a Legend, available now wherever hardbacks, ebooks, and audiobooks are sold.
I wish his one Christmas movie had been better.
God, his one Christmas movie is garbage. I really momentarily contemplated making that my double it up just to get a plug in, and I said that's impure. That's not. It's
tried with that one just because of how much I love you, and we've never talked about it.
Painfully unfunny, painfully, sweatily unfunny and bad. And also he's weirdly in the Midwest, but he's using his Tony Soprano voice. There's strange choices all throughout Surviving Christmas, which we don't recommend. If you are one of the weirdos who likes to watch videos of people recording a podcast, find us on YouTube on our channel Guide for the Film Fanatic.
Our humblest thanks to our guiding light, Mr. Danny Perry, author of Guide for the Film Fanatic, and shout out to executive producer Blake Howard.
Yep.
You know, I sent him last week's episode a little later than usual, but as I was apologizing, he said the oddest thing. Mike, I was always taught that mistakes should be remedied, especially between friends or lovers.
Thank you again, Alonso.
Merry Christmas, 007.
Merry Christmas. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Jason.
And thank you for listening. On the next Guide for the Film Fanatic, the insightful Soraya Nadia McDonald joins us to discuss one of the big ones, Gone with the Wind. It's spirited. It's lively. Don't miss it.